So we have Dean here from Epical Solutions, and we wanted to talk with him today about the FreeWheel. It's one of our best-selling products on livingspinal.com. And we have some questions just to get started. First off, Dean, where are you based right now?
I'm actually in East Lansing, Michigan.
There was a heat wave just recently, right? Or is it cooling off now?
No, actually, it's still pretty warm. We were in the upper 70s for a few days last week, and it's back in the mid 60s right now. So you would not know it was middle of November in Michigan.
That's amazing. Yeah,
my grass is green. We just lost our leaves within the last few days. So it's very, very unusual, very atypical.
What was the last TV show that you watched? So for me, the last thing that I watched was Portlandia. Have you guys heard of that? Seen that before?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a goofy show, just exploiting the idea of like hipsters in Portland.
Oh, really?
How about you, Andrew?
Unfortunately, I have to admit, the last show that I watched was Shameless, which is a really funny show about this just broken down family in Chicago. But there's like 6 seasons of it, so it could be quite the binge.
What about you, Dean?
Well, I watch a lot of hockey, a lot of sports. I don't watch a lot of TV per se, but the one show that I will watch, and I have watched, is Big Bang Theory.
Oh, right.
It was pretty funny, and it's proven to be, I guess, pretty funny for a number of years. But I catch maybe 1 out of every 5 episodes, so I'm not caught up on it.
We have been featuring the FreeWheel for quite some time. We put it into our top 5 wheelchair product video that we put on Facebook that got 31,000 views, 540 plus likes, and over 600 shares. So people are really digging what you guys are doing with the FreeWheel. It's one of those groundbreaking ideas where people think like, man, why didn't I come up with this? So we've seen people traveling with the FreeWheel or rolling around snow, grass, sand. I mean, you name it. Those things go anywhere. So, Dean, can you explain to somebody who's never seen the FreeWheel before, explain what it is?
Sure. And we've experienced the same phenomenon, obviously. The product is just what I call simply elegant. It's a product that was developed for a person in a rigid wheelchair initially. And the inventor is Pat Doherty. And he was quite an athlete. He traveled the world kite surfing and windsurfing. Mm-hmm. He was a big motocross rider, and unfortunately became a quadriplegic from a motorcycle accident during a race. Mm-hmm. And he got tired of dumping himself out of his chair, to be honest with you. He was married with kids and rolled off his patio into the grass and ended up on his face. And being an engineer, he's a mechanical engineer. He said, that's not going to happen again if I can help it. So he noodled it, put his mind to the problem, and came up with this solution. And basically what it is, it's a 12-inch wheel that sits under an arch that attaches to the footrest of a wheelchair. And when it rotates underneath the arch, it elevates the front of the chair and picks the caster wheels off the ground. That's it. That's that simple, and it allows somebody in a wheelchair to traverse many more challenging, versions of terrain out there, and not have to worry about always being on a flat surface, or if they're not on a flat surface, worrying about what kind of a minefield they're rolling through. If it's sticks and stones and cracks and crevices and all kinds of paving stones and cobblestones and railroad tracks, curbs, you name it, tree roots. I could go on and on about all the different obstacles. And what it does is it gives somebody back their freedom. It allows them to be more independent. And it really allows, when we talk about somebody that's traveling overseas, for example, we get quite a few pictures and thank yous back, electronic postcards, if you will, from people that are in some of the older cities in Italy and Spain and France.
Cobblestone.
And UK.
Yeah, we've seen
cobblestones are amazing. They said, you know what? I feel like a tourist again. I can actually see the sights because I'm not looking down. I'm looking up to see what's going on around me instead of looking down to see, what pitfalls might be in the way. So it's pretty, like I say, simply elegant solution. There's not a lot to it.
Mhm.
I think Pat did a really good job of engineering it to make it easy for somebody to use and as easy as possible for somebody to try to use themselves.
Mhm.
And obviously, since the product has been introduced, we've sort of broadened the use cases to both the left side and right side of the spectrum, from where Pat sort of sits in the middle
Mhm.
as a high functioning quad and a fixed chair. We're also applying it to quite a few other situations that people find themselves utilizing a wheelchair for.
Mhm. Yeah, I know when we did a shoot with Mia from the Push Girls, and she hopped in the FreeWheel, and that's what she said. Her real first comment was saying, "I don't have to look down at the ground anymore," and
Right.
Yeah.
so I think it's one of those things where it's always running in the background of your mind to know what's in front of you, if there's a big crack or rock or whatever, but you might not be focusing on it or know that you're focusing on it that much. But right when you throw a FreeWheel on there, it's really that added freedom and mobility to go anywhere you want.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how much you're staring at your feet and the ground, you know? I think one of the funniest stories that I ever heard was I had a friend named Keith who got one, and his girlfriend had a cat, and they would love to take this cat for walks. And they would like bring it down to the boardwalk and walk along the ocean and stuff. And he said, I never realized on these walks how much I was staring at the ground when I finally had the FreeWheel, and I was like looking up and looking at the ocean and looking around at what was around him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's consistent, I think, with what we hear too, is that people travel, they want to travel. It's already quite a challenge to travel with what airlines can do to a wheelchair. Many horror stories there, but when they finally get to where they want to be, being able to actually see the sights, if it's the old country, to see the castles, if they want to go to a winery, to actually get down in, and actually travel in and out of the vines and off the beaten track.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much more rewarding an experience for them with the FreeWheel.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I keep mine in the back of my van all the time. Just leave it in my car. I remember one of my favorite uses in my own experience was being a wheelchair user myself. Basically, my friend had just gotten a weird experience where he became the kind of groundskeeper for a boys and girls camp called Campfire in San Diego. And they have a cabin on site, and they get to live in this cabin on 7 acres right next to Balboa Park, downtown San Diego. So they can see the elephant enclosure from this property across the 163. And it's just a really neat place. And it's, there's wood chips everywhere. It's 7 acres. There's like bow and arrow, hay bales and
Mm-hmm.
a stage and all this stuff. Well, I get out of the car. I'm like so excited to go check this place out. And it's all wood chips. And I'm just like, all right, so I got to do a wheelie like the whole time, and there's a bit of hillscape throughout it. And all of a sudden it just like clicked in my head, like, oh, I have my FreeWheel in the back of my car. I grabbed that thing, put it on, and between like power assist wheels and a FreeWheel, that combination can be just unstoppable on terrain.
Some of the cool features with the FreeWheel is you have that perch that goes on the back of a chair. So you can always bring the FreeWheel around, just if you're at a park, you can have it attached to the front. And then when you want to go inside to a restaurant or a bar and you're taking up a little bit more space, just put it right in that perch. You don't have to go back to your car. And the other thing too is there is that dampener on the front, so you can tighten it or loosen it. And what that dampener does is it allows, for people listening, it allows the wheel to pop back to center on its own. It's essentially like spring loaded. So when you're pushing in your chair and you're on a camber, like side of a road or crossing a driveway or something like that, your chair is going to dive down the hill. But when you have the FreeWheel on there and you have the dampener tightened a little bit, it'll keep you straight, like going straight on a camber. When did you start Epical Solutions?
Well, we started Epical Solutions specifically to market the FreeWheel in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a cousin in Saskatchewan that was in a diving mishap and is a 5'6" incomplete quad and is in a chair.
Mm-hmm.
And had been very active athlete and was in the movie business, building sets up in Canada, and found himself with quite a challenge. So I was in Idaho actually with a software company that my business partner and I were running in Meridian. And actually I ran into Cindy Krieg, who's with the FreeWheel company. She and I grew up together here in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And I asked her what she was up to out there. And she told me what Pat was doing. And at that time, Pat and his twin brother, Mike, were actually welding the FreeWheels in the garage. They were building one at a time. And I thought it was very interesting. They were about a year into it when I ran into them. And, I immediately thought of my cousin Joel, who was just coming out of rehab, was just in a chair a short period of time and really trying to get used to his new reality. And so I asked them if I could, have a FreeWheel, get a FreeWheel from them. And we talked about different business plans and how they were going to expand. And they were nice enough to allow me to send one up to Joel and get his feedback. Well, in the meantime, Cindy and Pat built out quite a business internationally. Next time I saw them, many months later, they were in about 12 countries and had just received their first shipment of the product in a container from a larger manufacturer. So they kind of graduated from welding it in the garage to actually having it mass produced and having international customers. So with the feedback from Joel about how great a product it was, I approached Pat and asked, if we could be the reseller for Canada. And they were nice enough to agree to it. Cindy set us up as the distributor for Canada. And we started, that's how we got into the business. And then for about 4 or 5 years, we were doing pretty well in Canada. And Cindy and Pat were doing pretty well internationally. And we decided to try to expand our business a little bit. The United States wasn't quite getting the attention that the rest of the world was getting when you got a small company. I think they were kind of going where they were being led. And we felt that the U.S. could use a little more support. So made the request to take the U.S. on, and we did that almost 2 years ago.
Wow, has it been that long already?
Yeah, it has.
Holy cow.
It's flying by. And our company really was built around the FreeWheel. We don't have a lot of other products. We're in the process of looking at some other technology and maybe bringing some more technology to market that's a little more unique. We're not trying to, distribute just any product. We felt that product was pretty worthy. We brought a couple of other products to market, fit grips that we get out of the UK, and then we're doing the wheel blades out of Switzerland. And we're looking at some seating technology now, some corrective seating technology that will be proprietary to us. And will be our next foray after the first of the year. So we're in the mobility business, but we're kind of specialized in really trying to take on products that we think make a big difference. And don't cost too much money.
So what would you say is your overarching mission? Is it to add mobility, to add comfort, or how would you explain your mission statement?
Well, our mission statement right now is to get the FreeWheel on as many FreeWheels as we can in the territories that we can, have influence over. So we feel that this product changes people's lives. And I know, Andrew, you guys are in the business. You see lots of different products out there. There are many very, wonderful, technological marvel type mechanical products out there, but they're very expensive. And they're very unique. They're basically one-offs. They're very custom. And this is a product that everybody can use, just about. I mean, we say that, but almost anybody in a wheelchair. And recently, within the last year and a half or so, we've expanded the market segment that we can reach by introducing the adapter for folding wheelchairs, which there's many more folding wheelchairs on the planet than there are fixed wheelchairs. So that broadens the target market for us and makes it an even more target-rich environment. the benefit is not just the person in the chair. I'm a baby boomer getting on. You can see the white hair. And a lot of my buddies are getting hip replacements and knee replacements, and suffering the consequences of certain age-related and also disease-related. So people are more dependent upon chairs, but also dependent upon caregivers. And the FreeWheel is a benefit to the caregiver as well. If you've got somebody, a spouse or a loved one, or just somebody that you're taking care of that's in a chair and dependent upon that for mobility and can't push for themselves or has difficulties pushing for whatever reason, and you've got a caregiver, the FreeWheel makes it much easier on the caregiver as well. And we're seeing it, down in Florida, for example. Andrew, there's quite a few retirees down there, and probably more folding wheelchairs in the state of Florida than the rest of the country put together. So it's, I guess our mission is really, to get this on as many chairs as possible. And then I think if you come down below that sort of umbrella statement, we're looking at other products to help people that are dependent upon a chair or, have to be in a chair for much of their mobility and getting around during the day. We're looking at some seating products to help improve their comfort and their ability to be stronger. If they're going to have to use a chair, then we want to make sure that they are as healthy as possible and get the best experience they can. So that's sort of where we're at. And, we're actually a nonprofit organization. We started off, it's a 501c3 called the Steadfast Foundation. Epical Solutions sits underneath it. And we were really in the business of trying to help with kids with cancer. And again, came out of a family situation. I've got a couple of my sons that play hockey in the NHL. And my son Ryan was in Buffalo and somewhat of a big deal in the league, and was able to use his platform to kind of get above the noise and make a difference. He's no longer in Buffalo, still pretty good player in the league, but he's in Vancouver where, most of the causes or things that you feel strongly about are sort of dominated by the players who were there before him and are still, part of the Vancouver Canucks organization. So we sort of transitioned to mobility and really kind of rallying around what's going on with my cousin Joel, who runs our Canadian business, and really associating with the Paralympic sports and leveraging my son Ryan and my son Drew notoriety in the league to sort of get to those programs, those adaptive sports programs, where kids that are dependent upon wheelchairs are able to participate in some very gnarly sports, which is great. You got sled hockey and you got basketball and you got rugby and you got just road racing and just lots of different things. We've got kids that are doing cross country events because they can use the FreeWheel in their wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and then really looking up to these athletes that are on the adaptive sports teams, like the sled hockey team for the U.S., which is the gold medal team, sled hockey team for the Canadians, the women's sled hockey team, which is also the world champion, and really show younger people in chairs that are dependent upon wheelchairs for mobility that there's a lot more out there that they can do. The FreeWheel is one thing that gets them in everyday life. But there are sports and other recreational activities that they can participate in with or without the FreeWheel. And so we're really trying to leverage the sports side of life to help people, with freedom, independence, and mobility.
Yeah, we've done a few campaigns, as you're well aware of, where we had university students sign up to win a FreeWheel. We gave out a lot of those. And we also had a guy who in San Diego put a FreeWheel on his wheelchair and then did the FreeWheel. I think it was the Rock and Roll Marathon.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was not a pro athlete or a guy that is training constantly or anything like that. And the FreeWheel allowed him to get in there and participate. And he did the whole thing. So that was a tremendous thing to see an everyday guy who just wanted to, get some exercise and go after something huge in his life, like doing a marathon. And the FreeWheel really allowed that. I want to touch back on something that you had mentioned for people that maybe are listening that are caregivers or an individual that is in a manual chair a lot and they're being pushed. You had a good point of it's easier on the caregiver, and I wanted to touch on it. It's also, if you've ever been pushed in a wheelchair before, it's terrifying. You're really at the, you have to trust the person who's pushing you, and you can see right in front of you, but you feel the whole time like, your head is kind of blocking their view of where you're going, and they're going to just run you into a big rut and dump you out because they're pushing even faster than you normally go or whatever. And when you're in a wheelchair, you're constantly kind of lifting your front edge to relieve the weight so it doesn't grab on something, whereas that person's just heave-ho pushing away. So with the FreeWheel on, it's the peace of mind is amazing. And that's the kind of point that I was trying to get to there is that once that FreeWheel is on, there's no way that someone pushing you could ever dump you out of your wheelchair forward, that's a cool aspect of it.
Unless they really wanted to, Andrew. And my dad used to dump my mom once in a while just because. But you're right. It actually is a peace of mind thing. And I know when you're trusting somebody that's is pushing you from behind you, and you're panicked because you can see probably better than what they can see, that is going to be the pitfall for your caster wheels. And in some of the cases that we've seen, where you've got a husband and wife team, for example, and the husband's in the chair and he's 6'5", and the wife is pushing. She's the caregiver and she's 5'3".
Yeah.
But she's looking from one ear to the other, back and forth, because she can't see over top of them. And even looking side to side, she's not going to see what's down in front. Mm-hmm. And you see so many times they'll go off the side of the sidewalk, and next thing you know, you've got a little accident. So, right. And then you've got somebody potentially that's on the ground that the caregiver is not strong enough to help even get back into the chair. So it eliminates a lot of problems. But I like what you said. The peace of mind thing has got to be huge, because
it really is.
You're panicked that somebody else has got control over your physical well-being.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the point where, David, remember when we were recording for that one video with Mia from Push Girls, and one of the first things she did, and I've done this before too, is she just went right up to the top of a hill and bombed down a grass hill.
Yeah.
And what else there aren't a whole lot of things you can do that with when you're in a wheelchair, as far as bombing down a hill. So it's pretty cool that in a just plain old manual chair, you can make that happen.
I remember the first time I saw that. We have a person actually in San Diego, and she's fairly famous there. She's got a dog that pushes and pulls her. He puts his nose right between her shoulder blades and pushes her, and then he comes back around to the front and pulls like a sled dog. And when she had first gotten the FreeWheel, she put a GoPro camera on the side of her chair and was filming her experience. And I literally almost threw up because the video was so.
I thought you were going to say started crying.
Well, I was screaming. And I told her, I said, I hope you have a helmet. She was flying down sidewalks and across crosswalks and down hills and paths. And I mean, this dog was hauling her at warp 10. I mean, she was flying and screaming, and my hair is in the wind. I love this, but I was getting nauseous from the video because she was going so fast. And I thought, but it was such a great tribute because we've heard this from so many people, and either on telephone calls, or they send us videos, or we meet them in person at shows or someplace along the path. And so many people are now more included in activities and feel inclusive in activities. We've got a young man who is a Boy Scout. He's working on his Eagle Scout, and he can now actually go out and do a lot of the things he couldn't do in the field to get his badges, and he can be part of trekking out through and doing some hiking and things like that. And we have a woman here in Michigan actually who's been in a chair for her entire life, and she is into growing herbs and is a botanist. And when they have their annual meetings, she can't get out into the gardens as easily as everybody else. And she actually drove up here from Detroit, and we fit her chair, and she has a little bit of trouble communicating, and she did a little sign language. And this, I don't know about our audience on this one, but her mother, who is 65 years old, and this woman is 43, smiled and signed a message to me that her mother translated and said that no, she was not going to use the F word, because she said it was so freaking amazing. She goes, her mother said, I have never heard her use that language in her life. Crazy. Wow. And now she, so now she's able to get out in the gardens. And I mean, that's everybody. I tell people, I came out of the software. I'm still in the software business. That's my sort of my discipline and my expertise. And I've worked for some big companies, some huge companies, and small companies. I prefer small companies, but I say any day in the FreeWheel business is a good day, because nobody's yelling at you, nobody's mad at you, nobody's complaining about anything.
Yeah,
most people are really happy with the product and are either calling about parts, or because they need to repair, very quickly get back on the road if they've done lost a screw or what have you, or how quickly can I get a FreeWheel because my friend has one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's I can just tell you that I would rather spend all my time doing this than anything else, because it's just a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, another thing that's kind of neat that's going on with FreeWheel is they've recently added a couple colors into the spectrum of the FreeWheel world. So you guys are now offering blue and red as well. Tell us a little bit how that came about and how it's going.
It's going pretty well. It's a little bit radical for Pat, and I know he'll laugh when he hears this, because he's an engineer and color doesn't matter. And why would somebody want, other than black? But if you look at what's going on as the profile has sort of expanded for the use of the product, we've kind of moved from, Pat's 6'5", incomplete quad in a fixed chair, who's got pretty good upper body strength and good grip, good hands, and improved actually from some of the other exercises he's doing. But now our use cases are wide and varied, and we're really kind of driving down into the pediatric world, and kids like colors.
I think it's one of the best uses of the FreeWheel is the kids. I mean,
Absolutely.
watching those kids on a playground that's full of wood chips.
Oh, yeah.
You have a kid on a wheelchair on the sidelines just dying inside, wanting to play with everybody.
Absolutely.
And it's huge. I've seen it many times, and it's really cool to watch.
We're doing quite a bit of work with the spina bifida organizations, both nationally and on a state and local basis. And of course, a lot of the kids are very interested in the FreeWheel, and it's a very self-referencing group of people. And you get a mama bear who is trying to take care of their kid, and they get behind the FreeWheel, and pretty soon everybody within the organization knows about it.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a challenge for us, and that's really where the custom frames came from. Where the standard FreeWheel will handle about 4.5 to 4 5/8 inches above the ground, whereas we can go up to 9.5 inches with the custom, and that directly came out of the more elevated, raised footrests, and primarily the initial ones were kids that were suffering from spina bifida and wanting to be more active. So and that's really where the colors sort of came from, is really kind of catering to the kids, and
cool.
They wanted to have more fun.
So just to kind of expand on it a little bit for our people that are listening as well, when a kid has a footrest in a wheelchair, usually their legs aren't nearly as long, right, as an adult. So the footrest gets raised up quite a bit. And the way that the FreeWheel mounts on, they actually need to accommodate for that change, and the angle changes. And so they do custom cut them out and re-weld them or weld them properly the way they're supposed to be for that specific size. So, if you see one and you think, wow, that's not going to really work for my kids' chair, it's not true at all. And we can easily get the measurements from you and work with you and get your kids set up as well. So,
Yeah. And additionally, we have a page that if you lose any of the parts on your FreeWheel, you can order every individual part off of our website.
Correct. Yeah, and that's important. It's like any other mechanical device. It's imperative that you maintain your FreeWheel as best you can, and there's a little guidelines as to what to look for. And a well-maintained FreeWheel is a great tool, and that's good that you guys have those parts there and available readily. We're thinking about actually putting together a little kit that's sort of like a tune-up kit, or
a little maintenance kit.
A little most popular pieces kit.
Proactive.
Because what happens, unfortunately, is somebody's on vacation, they're in Florida, they're in Banff or someplace, and they've either lost it on the way there or lost it while they were there, and they're calling and trying to get something expedited, or find a local dealer.
It shows a lot to the FreeWheel that you're hearing people on vacation a lot, right? I mean, you're going on vacation and everybody's suitcase is as full as possible, but they still make room to get a FreeWheel in their suitcase. And the fact that the FreeWheel can fit in your suitcase is a huge thing too. I mean, I bring it with me every time I go on a trip, especially if I'm in like Mexico or somewhere where the roads are going to be a little bit less, a little uneven and cobblestone or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and it's funny that it's heartwarming to know that when they first get their FreeWheel, a lot of people, I've seen it and maybe they didn't get it and they thought about it, and then a friend gets it, and then they're just about to go on vacation and they realize, oh my gosh, I want to get the FreeWheel now. And, so they'll try to, and they'll get it, and they'll be so excited that you'll end up getting, pictures emailed to us from all over the world. They're so, just here I am on the beach, here I am on the volcano, here I am at the cathedral, here I am, all these at the winery and all these places. And it's amazing how much impact it does have, especially for travel.
Right. Yeah. And for such a simple, elegant idea, it's not this like exoskeleton that lifts people off the ground to allow them to have more freedom that costs $20,000. I wanted to ask you, can you explain the different add-ons and attachments that you can buy for the FreeWheel?
Sure. Well, the first one we talked about a little bit is the adapter, and that's for the folding wheelchairs. And it doesn't fit every folding wheelchair, but it fits quite a few of them. Mm-hmm. And we just actually came out with a modification for the adapter. Pat just finished, we did some testing on it, and he just finished the fabrication for it for the new Motion Composites.
Great.
Those are folding chair. Yeah.
That's an amazing chair.
That's a great chair, and we're getting more and more people asking about the adapter. So that's now available, and I think we'll be able to ship them soon. So that's a good one. But the adapter is one that's, I think, remarkable in that it really allows us to go after the largest portion of the market, which is the folding wheelchairs. And what it does is it attaches to parallel bars underneath the folding wheelchair, and it kind of provides a hitch that emulates a solid foot plate in the front. And the FreeWheel out of the box, the standard FreeWheel is nothing special, will attach to that and give that person using the folding wheelchair the same benefits that we bring to somebody in a fixed wheelchair. So that's the first thing. And there's a second thing called the carry-all rack. And what that does is it mounts to the front of a fixed wheelchair. And it allows you, it gives you kind of, it's a rack that sits out. It actually rests on the arch of the FreeWheel. So it's kind of a 3-point connection, 2 points on the chair and one that's where it's sitting on top of the arch for support. And it'll hold up to about 25 pounds safely and comfortably, so that, and Pat, it really came out of us using Pat as our luggage dolly going through airports. He always had 4 or 5 bags on his lap. He didn't see where he was going. Cindy was pushing him, and we were flying through airports, and they travel the world like that. And I think he decided that he needed to have a little more scenery, and then no, seriously, but it also allows him to go to the grocery store and throw a basket on there and bags of groceries, or his ski equipment when he goes sit skiing, or just about anything. It's a nice little add-on. It pops off real quick. So it's not a permanent addition. It's when you need it kind of thing.
Have you seen any products outside of what you guys sell that just collaborate and work so well with the FreeWheel?
Well, Andrew touched on it briefly earlier. Any kind of propulsion, like the Smart Drive, for example, is an absolute perfect match for it. Pat uses it on his chair. My cousin Joel uses one as well. It's just a great combination for when you need to really be, going long distances, and you've got multiple terrain challenges ahead of you. It's good even on the flats, and you can really haul, but it's really nice. Yeah, so that's a great combination.
Another product that even has a marketing campaign going out right now, and I don't know if you've seen this yet, Dean, but Soft Wheels is even showing how well the FreeWheel works together with Soft Wheels. One of their Facebook marketing ads right now is a guy going through Pompeii on all the cobblestone roads that are just super up and down and all over the place. And of course, he's got a FreeWheel out in front of him, and he's got Soft Wheels in the back, which I don't know if everybody that's listening knows what those are, but they're basically another product that is a suspension inside of the wheels. So instead of spokes, it's actually like suspension, little hydraulics. So when you hit a bump or something like that, it can be absorbed into the wheel. So another great product that is working well together with the FreeWheel.
Yeah, we saw another product similar to the Soft Wheels, but they're called Loop Wheels.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Loop Wheels too?
It's another one we sell.
Yeah, that's out of the UK. So we saw them over at ReaCare, and they were demonstrating their wheels with the FreeWheel as well, and kind of going head to head with Soft Wheels. So yeah, it's a good complementary product. We see it used with a lot of the different propulsion wheels. Some of them you're pushing it's got energy. Some of them got handles and you're pumping, but the FreeWheel makes it a lot easier.
So Dean, where do you see the wheelchair industry going in the future? What do you want to see, and what are you guys projecting for the FreeWheel?
Well, I think the FreeWheel is in a pretty good position. I think there's always going to be wheelchairs that can benefit from the FreeWheel. In terms of the wheelchair technology itself, I sort of see this, the chairs getting lighter. You see them building, different options into them to make them more versatile, which is great. I think weight consideration is huge. I think the seating technology around making sure that somebody's comfortable, making sure they're properly seated, making sure they're not getting sores, making sure that they can get the best push and they've got the least amount of torque on the joints, like their shoulders and their elbows and their, wrists and things like that. So I think the fine tuning of the chair is kind of, where it seems to be going with the chairs.
I totally agree.
Yeah. As far as other technology, it's interesting to watch, now that, my cousin Joel is not our first family member to rely on a wheelchair. When my son Ryan was about 2, we actually lived with my wife's brother, who was in a Jeep accident, and he was a C6, C7 incomplete in a chair. And my son Ryan used to stand on the footplate and hold on to Scott's knees, and they used to fly down the hill, and my wife and I would have a heart attack. So we're interested in seeing what's going on. But when you're close to the community, as you guys are, and as we have become, you start to look at some of the medical advances that they're working on in terms of, nerve stimulation and some of the things that potentially, around paraplegia and quadriplegia, but even some of the things they're doing with DNA around some of the things like spina bifida and things that can be potentially avoided through some sort of genetic engineering or some sort of a fix. I mean, there's so many angles, I guess, coming at why somebody might have to be relying on a wheelchair for their, for mobility, that it's kind of hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, and the robotic exoskeletons are coming.
Oh, I know.
As
That was
well.
amazing technology. So there's some really cool stuff out there. As far as Epical Solutions is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, we're really focused on a kind of a handful of things. I won't announce anything right now, but we're looking at some cool technology around seating that helps make it more comfortable and safer. So we're going to kind of pick our shots in terms of what we think we can do that's simply elegant, affordable, and working with people we like to work with.
That's awesome. You had kind of touched on earlier how the growth of FreeWheel has continued and how it's become a global product. Do you know about how many different countries the FreeWheel is in today?
I do know that they're in over 25 countries. I do know that. I don't know exactly how many. I was with FreeWheel at ReaCare in Germany this fall. So I actually helped man their booth while they had their meetings with all their distributors. So I actually got a chance to meet quite a few of the people from Italy and Spain and France, the UK. Yeah, you name it, they're there. So yeah, they're in at least 25 countries for sure, and continuing to expand. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And then the other question I had for you was, if you were to take a guess, about how many FreeWheels do you think are distributed through the U.S. and Canada to date today?
Well, my first response is not enough. And that's part of our mission, and that's where we think.
Yeah, everyone should have one. It kind of blows my mind when people don't.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of upside, and I think that's exciting, and we're sort of up for the challenge. I don't know exactly how many are out there. We're selling quite a few. Canada is about 1/13 the population, and when we took over the United States, we were selling as many in Canada as they were here. So there was a lot of room for growth, and I think we're not exponentially growing it, but we're certainly we've got a healthy growth curve going. But like I say, I think that we can do a much better and complete job and get the word out there. I think that there's a lot of challenges in the U.S. around our insurance programs and how things are paid for, and we're trying to help. Like, I know you guys try to get creative in terms of helping people afford technology and things that can improve their life. We're trying to do some of the same things, but it is a challenge around the product. Sometimes there are people that could probably influence the purchase of the product that don't feel there's enough margin in the product to make it worth their while, which is a little bit frustrating sometimes. But that's the nature of big business. So I guess maybe it's a good problem to have. I don't know, because we got people like yourselves that do a really good job with the product and are happy to sell the product and get the product out there. So I think there's some challenges to that we have to kind of rise above to get the product out there, like we think we can. Because I honestly can't think of another product in any other industry that's as life altering, simply elegant as this product. I can't come up with an equal product, an equal value proposition.
Yeah,
I've been in business a lot of years, and I've done a lot of stuff with software, but I cannot come up with anything that is equal. It blows my mind.
Well, then you're doing the right thing. And I think that's just from hearing you talk today and knowing a lot about Epical Solutions myself, I think that it's awesome that you guys have not put money or, greed or any of the crazy things that sometimes can get pushed into business or thought to be, and being a 501c3 and using the hockey industry and sports and different things to do good things for people is an amazing thing. And so Living Spinal is really happy to work with you guys. And I think together we make a great team. And everybody that's out there, you can find the FreeWheel at livingspinal.com. And there's lots of wonderful things you can do with it. So.
Yeah, we have videos, we have promotions that are going all the time. So jump on livingspinal.com or our Facebook page. There's always something new. And we just want to thank Dean for his time. We're really happy to have him. We really do appreciate your insight, and hopefully this will help a lot of the listeners out there.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I know when we started working in the United States, Living Spinal was one of only 2 or 3 accounts that was sort of handed over to us. So we were very happy to meet Andrew and to start or I guess expand and nurture this relationship. And we've been very happy, and we're proud to call you guys partners, and I look forward to the future.
Awesome. Another thing that we kind of touched on real quickly was being creative and finding ways to pay for things, because the FreeWheel is an item that's a little bit difficult to get insurance to pay for and whatnot. So we do have some resource guides that livingspinal.com has put together that can show you the route as to crowdfunding and doing different things. And we've kind of used those in other product segments as well. But anything that is out of your reach to maybe afford, you could use alternative resources and ways to get creative and outside the box to get it together. The FreeWheel retails for $5.99. It's not too difficult to get to that kind of a goal. So great product.
Good point. Yeah, I think crowdfunding is an amazing phenomenon where you can have, we like to call it community funding, because really I think there is a community is something to rally, and when you have the ability to reach out and let people know, make them aware that there's a need that needs to be met, it's amazing how people rally. And I think it's all about communication. And I personally think that that's just been one of the biggest and probably the most important things that have come out of social media and the internet and people being connected, is that communities can help each other and help one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And everybody that's listening, enjoy your day, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, Dean.
All right. Take care. Good to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.